This channeling, or most channelings of this nature, seem to be the result of an agreement or an arrangement that very often happens sometimes even before this life, and that your life contains whatever kinds of circumstances it needs to get you to remember you made this kind of an agreement and to give you the ability to fulfill this agreement. And how that happens for everyone is, of course, different based on their own lifestyle. Now, channeling is something that everyone can do, and channeling is something that everyone does do, mechanically speaking, at one time or another. The state of channeling is just really being completely at flow with creativity, with a certain level of energy, without getting in your way, without doubt, without hesitation, without over-analytical interference in what you're doing. A singer that is lost in the song, an actor that becomes the part, in essence, is in the channeling state. But in that state, you also have the capability of accessing other levels of your own consciousness, and apparently other consciousnesses as well, and making some kind of a connection or a link-up. That seems to be what's happening here in this particular presentation. This particular channeling started for me, or the events that led up to it, started about 21 years ago. On 2 different occasions within the same week, I had, with 4 friends with me the first time and 2 friends with me the second time, I had very, very close broad daylight sightings of UFOs over Los Angeles. First time about 170 feet away, second time only about 60 feet away. Both times an equilateral triangular shaped shift, dark metallic in color. After having seen something like that, I began to be excited about doing research into UFOs, and eventually ran across other metaphysical concepts, psychic phenomena, channeling, and so forth in my research. Eventually, I was practicing at the time, and this was 10 years after the sighting, and the entity coming through that channel eventually offered to teach channeling for whoever might be interested. I took him up on the offer and went into the class, not because I wanted consciously to become a channel. I just wanted to learn more about this process and see what this was all about. The class was basically a series of guided meditations, mental exercises to make you more sensitive to other levels of consciousness or just higher levels of information. During the class, however, at one point of receptivity, I received what appeared to be, or what felt like, a telepathic connection from Bashar and his people, and in that moment, an actual memory came back of having made an agreement to do this with him. And I understood at that moment that the UFO had been his ship, which he had shown to me for the purpose of getting me to start doing the research I needed to do. So that really triggered me and moved me in the direction. So the telepathic message at this point, upon receiving this memory, was, now you remember you made this agreement with us, now's the time to begin, if this is still something you want to do. Is it? And I had to think about this for a while. I wanted to make sure I wasn't hallucinating or just, my imagination going nuts. And after a while I realized that it didn't really matter whether Bashar was really an extraterrestrial, really separate from myself, or whether this was just another portion of my own consciousness. The important thing was the information, that it could help people, could help us make changes that we want. And for that reason, I decided to go ahead and do the channeling, and I've been doing it now for the last 11 years. And the thing that I really do like to underscore, again, and stress especially for the new people, is that it does not matter that you believe that Bashar is real, an entity unto himself, or whether this is really just an aspect of my own consciousness. I have no way of proving this to you at this point anyway. Bashar has said that because of the changes taking place on the planet, perhaps within the next 5 to 10 years at the most, his people will be able, along with other species, to interact with us face to face. At that point, obviously, we have all the concrete proof we need of his physical existence. They know right now the most important thing is the information, and they want to remain in the background out of necessity and out of choice for this moment, because they want us to decide whether the information works for us, regardless of who's giving it, regardless of their presence. They don't want their presence to force us to think that we have to listen. So basically, this entire interaction is for the purpose of deciding what the information can do in your lives, how you can apply it in ways that are beneficial to you, and make the kind of changes that you want and help make them stick. That is really the reason why we're doing this. Now, Bashar does present himself as an extraterrestrial being when he comes through. You can certainly ask him anything you want to about himself, about his civilization. Many people have from time to time. But the thing, again, that's important is for you to ask what you want to ask that's important to you. Don't think that if there's something that you want to ask that's a little bit personal, that it's not appropriate to ask in a group situation. If you're not uncomfortable asking it in front of a group, please don't hesitate or be shy to ask anything that's important to you, because that's really what this is all about. The more fun you have with him, the more fun he'll have with you. The more you talk to him on a very informal basis, friendly basis, the more he can reflect that back to you, and the information can flow very easily and rapidly. When I go into the altered state, what's basically happening for me is it's like dropping into a very deep daydream. I don't really hear the conversations that he's having with you. I do experience pictures and energies and my own experience of understanding the very basic essential principles that are being discussed, so I can use them in my life, but I really don't remember nor hear the specific dialogue he's having with you. But the experience for me is very energizing, very balancing, very, very beneficial on a lot of different levels. So I appreciate very much the opportunity that I get in doing this, and hopefully it's as strong for you, reciprocally with what you need. Now, the word itself, Bashar, is not literally his name. In their society, as he's explained it, they're pretty much telepathic at this point in their evolution. They don't need names, but we need something to call him. And so the word was simply chosen. It's an Arabic word, and it really just means messenger. It's connected to my background and a lot of other things that are not important to go into right now, but it works to represent what he is. And so by all means, use the word Bashar as his name in your dialogue with him. And as was stated, he'll come through and he'll talk about something he feels is important for a few minutes, and then he's going to turn it right over to you for the majority of the session to talk about what you want to talk about. And for this purpose, we have the chairs lined up to come up and ask questions. So when you have a question, by all means, go ahead, take the last chair, and keep moving up so that we can sort of keep the line going. And by doing that, and by making at least an attempt to focus it to the single most important question you want to talk about, we get a chance to get as many people as possible through and interact with Bashar in the limited amount of time that we have. If he wants to take you further, by all means, of course, go with him, but let's try to keep it focused to a single question so everyone gets a chance, or at least as many people as possible. Are there any questions about procedure or anything that anyone needs to know about before we begin? No? Okay. Well, again, thank you all very, very much for coming, and do enjoy it, and I'll see you all later. I'm going to sleep now.
I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Allow us to begin this communication in the following way by, once again, thanking each and every one of you, individually, and all of you, collectively, for allowing us to co-create this interaction with you. Every single time we are afforded an opportunity to interact with you in this way, we are granted the privilege of seeing that many more different ways that infinite creation has of expressing itself through all of the different belief systems and points of view that exist in your society. And this expands our understanding of the many aspects of creation. So, we thank you for the gift of viewing the differences, the unique qualities of your civilization, and allowing us to share with you some of the perspectives and experiences that we have created in our society in this mutual exchange. We will begin this day of your time, this dialogue, with the following idea. We have talked a little bit from time to time about the concept of unity and oneness and so on and so forth, as you say. And we have mentioned from time to time that unity and oneness is truly more the product of strengthening your individuality rather than simply blending with the masses and becoming homogeneously indistinct. Each and every one of you is unique for a reason, because each and every one, each and every being is a unique perspective, a unique experience of the infinite. Everyone is all the different ways that the infinite has of experiencing itself, and therefore the uniqueness is to be cherished, not lost, in the creation of unity. As we have described in the analogy many times, if you look at your world as a gigantic puzzle picture and each and every one of you as a piece of the puzzle, you will see very quickly that in order to create the true whole picture, each and every piece with its own unique shape has a place to fit and must retain that shape in order to fill the hole it was designed to fill in order to create the whole picture. If that piece attempts to change its shape and not be what it is, then it doesn't fit in the hole, and the whole picture suffers as a result. So, retaining and amplifying your unique individuality, being the fullest person that you can be, is fundamentally the fulfillment of the purpose of your life and allows the best possible opportunity for the whole reality to become more cohesive, more integrated, to act in a more holistic manner, because every time each piece is the fullest piece it can be, it acts as a reflection, a living example for all other components that they can also be the fullest piece they can be. Of course, holographically speaking, every single piece contains all the information of the whole, but from a unique perspective. Saying that you are a piece of the whole is not in any way, shape, or form meant to diminish the idea that you contain, each and every one of you, the total sum of all that is, but expressed through a particular point of view, a particular facet of the multidimensional crystal. Now, you have heard a lot of talk of the concept that everyone is one, all is one, and this is so. But more often than not, you hear this concept presented to you in what might be called a classically spiritual or non-physiological context. We would like at this time to stress the idea that oneness is also experienced on the physiological level as well as the spiritual, astral, etheric levels that you are all now beginning to explore. We have, from time to time, talked about one particular concept we have in our society that we call the prime radiance. And this will now work once again to strengthen the analogy of this physiological oneness that exists, and so further illustrate how you really are connected to everything, and how every change you make within yourself truly affects and changes everything, everyone, everywhere, everywhen in existence. We do not say this to give you what you call a swelled head or a big ego, to think that you are so powerful that you affect the whole universe with your thoughts, but you do. And we would like to illustrate that this is a perspective that can lend a very beneficial understanding to your ability to change, and to know that when you change, you do not necessarily have to fall back into certain patterns or habits in your life that do not serve you, that you do not prefer, because you can begin to recognize through the analogy we will illustrate in a moment that every change really is such a complete change that once you make a change, you are really operating from a completely different universe and do not have to create the kind of attachment to things in your life that you don't prefer to. So, let us begin with this analogy of the prime radiance by discussing this in the following way. This may at first seem a little bit technical, but you will see very quickly, very rapidly, how this applies to your day-to-day, as you say, down-to-earth, practical and pragmatic existence. Now, some of the terminology we will use is, again, allegorical. We understand that some of these concepts are not even really accepted literally, even by some of the scientists in your society. But for the purpose of this analogy, certain terminologies will simply have to do. Primarily, the concept of what you call particle, subatomic particle, elemental particle. That which, by whatever name you wish to call it, would represent in your understanding the most basic, smallest idea or particle that makes up all of the matter in your physiological universe. So, let us begin there with this theoretical or hypothetical, infinitesimal, indivisible, ultimate particle. Now, there is only one particle, only one out of which everything is made. When we say that, we do not mean there is only one kind of particle out of which everything is made. We literally mean there is only one particle out of which everything is made. We explain it this way. This particle has really no mass to speak of. It has infinite velocity, infinite speed. Nothing slows it down. Nothing impedes it. Nothing at all. There is nothing to impede it. It is the only one particle in existence. It cannot be interfered with by any other idea of force or matter. Being that this one individual particle has infinite speed, what that means, you will soon see, is that it can be anywhere, everywhere, at the same time, because its speed is truly infinite. Therefore, this one particle can even appear next to itself over and over and over and over and over and over again at the same time, because its speed is infinite. This particle appearing next to itself over and over and over again, millions, billions, trillions of times, is what you perceive in your reality to be many different particles interacting with each other. It's all the same one particle interacting with itself. So, take this a step further, and you can very quickly recognize and realize that if there is only one particle, and it is the same particle as all the other particles that you perceive, and it is everywhere, anywhere, anywhen, you can very quickly see that the atoms that make up your body, the atoms that make up someone else's body, the atoms that make up your planet, the atoms that make up the stars, all the other planets, all the other matter, throughout the entire physical universe, are all one particle in what might be called an universal time-sharing mode, so to speak. So, if the particles that make up you is the same particle that makes up everyone else, you really are literally all one. The particle flickering back and forth at infinite speed to make up all the atoms in you, all the atoms in everyone else, all the atoms in everything else at the same time. You literally are the stars, are everyone else, even physiologically, not just spiritually, not just energetically, even physiologically, you all share the same one particle to build up the physical material that you see as many different particles. This means any change you make in your pattern, in your vibration, in your geometric pattern of this one particle forming the general shapes of yourself, any change you make affects the path of that particle, the geometric path of that particle. And as it affects the path of that one particle, it must, by definition, affect that path for every other combination of that particle that exists. So even the tiniest movement of your little finger, even the tiniest electrical surge of thought in your brain affects the entire spectrum, the entire pattern of the entire physiological universe. You are all one. Does that make some sense to you? All right. So, again, we say this to allow you to understand not so much the concept of how much power you have, but the idea more precisely of how definitive, how impactful each and every one of you is, and how absolute the changes are that you make, so that you can see that when you change yourself and you change the entire universe, it is truly, literally, with every change, a different universe, with its own idea of itself, its own definition of itself at that moment. And really, unless you choose to make a connection to what was or what will be, there is no connection, because every universe is unique and exists only totally in the now moment that you decide to generate that particular change, that particular definition, that particular pattern. So when you want to change something about your world, about your reality, all you have to do is make a change in yourself, and you will see the change reflected by what appears to be the universe around you, because it is only a reflection of the vibrations, the patterns, the beliefs, the definitions going on within each and every one of you. And the great paradox of this is it works the same for everyone from every point of view simultaneously, for this is the quality of an infinite particle, a multidimensional reality. You all can make the same kind of changes simultaneously, and they do not contradict each other. You're not in conflict saying, well, what if I make a change here and it causes a change to happen over there where someone doesn't want a change to happen? It can't happen that way. It's a giant orchestration because, again, it's the same one thing. And every apparent individual component of it moves in the way it needs to move to accommodate every other move that is made. It all moves as one. It is not the idea of something imposing itself on something else. It is all one movement, one change going on simultaneously for the entire idea, even as it goes on for the individual components in different ways that are reflective or representative of the unique perspective that all the individual components are created to have. Now, we will be able to further utilize this analogy in some of the dialogues that we will have in seeing how to apply this concept of total change to your lives to help you make the changes you want to make smoothly, more easily, more absolutely, so that you know it is really up to you to decide who you want to be, how you want to experience your reality, and that you can allow those changes of decision, of choice, to stick, or to change them as you wish to from moment to moment, and fully realize the reality that goes hand in hand with whatever change you decide to make. In addition to this concept, this foundational idea that may form the basis of many of our discussions, we would also like to add some other idea that we have discussed before. Because of the changes you are making on your planet, there are more and more and more opportunities coming up in your near future as we sense your energy for literal, physical, face-to-face interactions with more members of different extraterrestrial species. Not that this has to be an important goal on your planet in and of itself. For you, your planet is the most important thing that there is. Attend to yourselves first. Do not make us more important than yourselves. We are all equals, but we are all different. We would enjoy interacting more concretely with you, and we at least would like to think you would enjoy interacting more concretely with us, but what you decide to do is up to you. It's your planet and your life after all. However, as we read the changes in your energy, there are more opportunities coming up. More and more individuals on your planet are more receptive to these more concrete, more crystallized face-to-face interactions. And in your years upcoming of 1997 and 1998, there will be an increase in opportunities around your planet for more physiological sightings and interactions. To this end, we recognize that there needs to be some fine-tuning of your frequencies, adjustments in your energies to allow these interactions to take place in the most beneficial way for your world that they possibly can. And to this end, we have designed what we have called the Interface Laboratory Workshop. The information on this will be available as of your March 15th date, in that represents a particular gateway, a particular threshold of energy and transition point in your collective consciousness, and it will be available to anyone, anywhere, simultaneously, who wishes to participate. There will be more information delivered on this, but no matter where you are, you will be able to participate if you wish to. It is up to you. There will be two basic phases to this, and they will both be in what you call your written language. One first phase will be literally what you call a first stage application. To gauge the frequency of the individuals, and in some senses gauge the qualification as to whether or not it would be beneficial for an individual to participate further in the exercises and the interactive exercises that will be included in the workshop itself. Based upon the response to this first stage application, it will thus be determined as to whether or not you would want to receive the actual workbook, which you can receive wherever you are, take whatever time you wish to take to work through, and there will be interactive guidance given in this workshop, even though you will be using a written workbook wherever you happen to be on your planet. This will allow, doing it this way, the highest number of individuals to participate who wish to, without regard to the idea of you having to be at a special place at a special time, and without regard to the idea of the limitations that take place within the scheduling of your human endeavors. So, more of this information will be made available to you, commencing upon your March 15th date, and you will be able to access it from that point forward for as long as individuals on your planet care to. Until such time as the face-to-face interactions are commonplace on your world, there will always be, either from us or from others, some form of training, some form of guidance, some form of assistance to make sure that these interactions will be for you the most beneficial that they can be. We thank you once again for the opportunity to interact with you in this way, in that way, in all the ways in which we have, are now, or may co-create an interaction. In return for the great gift that you are allowing us to have in communicating to your civilization in this way, in return for your willingness to function as ambassadors of your civilization and lay the first foundations for our interaction, I ask you now, in what way may we be of service to you? You may begin with sharing as you wish.
Bashar.
And good day to you.
Greetings from Las Vegas Embassy.
All right. Thank you.
We are Astronel Trad Moon II.
You do not need to describe or define this idea. Simply address whatever issue you wish to address.
Well, this is the issue. We are the captain of the Starship ISIS.
This is not an issue. This is simply an appellation. This is simply a recognition of a vibration that represents your particular path or methodology about how you want to go about being of service on your world. This is already recognized, for all of you will have different ways of recognizing different aspects of yourself and going within the strength of those recognitions, expressing whatever components of your consciousness you feel work best to be of service in the transformation taking place on your planet. This is not the issue. The issue is simply that if you know how you wish to be, who you wish to be, how you wish to act, the issue is simply what actions are being done to express who you recognize yourself to be. That is the issue.
Well, we are the Starship ISIS, and we're here in the third, fourth, and fifth dimension.
You continue to address something that is peripheral to the issue.
Well,
you do not need to label yourself to us.
The issue to me,
yes.
The issue for me
yes.
is understanding that we are the Starship, is how to get the motor started and take off in it.
No, this is not the issue. These things will come in time, these recognitions of things that will create stronger links, stronger bridges between the Earth and other worlds that all of you have connections to, and other worlds that many of you may, in fact, have incarnated from. But this is not the issue. The issue is to focus in a grounded way upon the needs of the planet you are on now. It is the paradox that in focusing upon how you can be of service on the planet you are on now, as you move through and amplify the service on the planet you are on now, you will automatically attract to yourself, through that grounded service, all the opportunities, all the circumstances, all the necessary attributes to ultimately create the things that you need to also strengthen the bridge and the link and the abilities to interact with other planets later.
Well, you once told us that we are the Starship, so I just thought that we would admit that and that you might appreciate that we admit that.
I do appreciate that you recognize that. But again, of paramount importance is that once there is a recognition, is to ask the self the question, what does this recognition have to do with my ability to be of service where I am? How can I apply this recognition to where I am at? For, though we appreciate the recognition in and of itself, from our perspective, we do not actually recognize that a true and complete recognition has been made unless there is a corresponding action to demonstrate that the recognition has been made. Mental recognitions to us are not complete acts.
Well, that's what I'm here to talk about.
All right.
Is how to demonstrate
All
the recognition.
right. How do you wish to demonstrate the recognition with regard to being of assistance to the things that are going on your planet now? You have already expressed to us, to some degree, that you participate in sharing information with individuals to help your planet become more aware of the different kinds of political and economic structures that exist upon your planet and how some of these political structures can be changed to the benefit of your world. That is definitely one application of this recognition. Is there some further application in this direction that you wish to talk about?
Well, my vision is to materialize the Starship ISIS that we are in the third dimension in the Nevada desert and have it be an embassy for extraterrestrials and humans.
If you recognize that you are the same thing as the starship itself, then you yourself will recognize that you have the same vibration. And for now, while you appear as you do, it serves the purpose of your planet for you to do so. When it serves the purpose of your planet for you to appear as the ship itself, in terms as your people would understand that format, it will then happen spontaneously or automatically. You don't have to try to manifest that idea. All you have to do is be more and more and more and more totally yourself in the actions that you do, and ultimately you will appear in all the forms that are important for you to appear in, that are most representative of what your people need to see.
And so I can rest and be confident that this particular form that we're talking about, that will be something that will be happening.
Ultimately, it is contained within you, and when it is appropriate for that particular aspect of yourself, as with all of you, to present itself in the work that you are doing, it will, and nothing will stop it from doing so. But that is not a goal. It is simply one of the steps along the path of taking the actions now that say you are acting as totally as you possibly can.
Well, it's a goal for me.
If it is a goal, you will actually diffuse its ability to manifest.
Well, then it's not a goal.
Thank you.
But it's going to happen.
It will happen, absolutely.
Okay.
That is because it is not a goal.
Okay.
Thank you for your sharing.
The wizard Althea said that in May of this year I would experience the great transformation, and I just wanted to maybe have
This is your year, as we have called it, of breakdown and breakthrough. When you allow yourself now to recognize that many of the things that you have been working on for some time that may seem to have been, in your language, going nowhere, you can recognize that they have all been building toward this particular cycle wherein begins true breakdown and breakthrough. But the breakdown implies that a lot of past assumptions, a lot of old paradigms, and a lot of old definitions must be dropped and let go of before the new manifestations can actually occur. But this year contains many opportunities for great amplification and great breakthrough. Just continue doing whatever excites you the most with regard to the focus of being of service and staying in the moment with that, and everything else, every opportunity that you require to make the different kinds of breakthroughs that you do will happen automatically.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to float in the starship. We are out of the room now. And
right.
See you later.
Good day to you.
Thank you, sir.
And to you, good day.
Okay, some questions which I've been trying to get to ask you for a number of months.
All right.
Get in the question or it slips my mind, whatever.
All right.
On a number of occasions when I just awoken from, I presume a dream anyway,
Yes.
I have felt like paralyzed.
Yay.
Okay. And on the last recollection of this, there was like a rushing of wind around me and I felt like I was turning. Was that being possibly me returning from abduction?
Yes. Now understand that some of that paralysis feeling and that vibrational feeling and the sounds, the effects, the rushing and different kinds of sounds, what they are generally representative of is a shift from one dimension to another for whatever reason, one frequency back to another for whatever reason. But as it so happens, many of the reasons that this occurs on your planet is because of interaction with a particular extraterrestrial species that, in the interaction, transports you to another vibrational dimension and then returns you to your own, whereupon you experience these paralyzing vibrations. Also, these paralyzing vibrations are amplified intentionally many times by the species interacting with your species in that way for the purpose of making sure that you will not divert from their particular agenda. You understand?
I think so, yes. Could you tell me, when was I last abducted?
One moment. It would seem to have occurred within what you would call the last 3 weeks of your time.
Okay. And another question, a little bit different. What was my last life here on this planet?
Linearly.
Yes.
All right, one moment. It would seem that it had something to do with stewardship. One moment. It would seem that there is a connection to what you would call your England area and a connection to the idea of cooking. One moment. It would seem there were large copper kettles involved. One moment. It would seem not longer ago than what you might recognize as your 1930s or thereabouts, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
It would seem to have been connected to the time of what you call depressions and cycles of political depression and so on and so forth.
How did I die?
One moment. One moment. We are attempting to unravel the threads. There are being presented to us 2 or 3 possibilities. We are attempting to see if we are getting cross-bleed, as you say, from different alternate realities to determine which one is most linear to you. One moment. In one, it would be what you call poisoning, ptomaine. You understand? In one, it would be what you call the idea of having been murdered. In one, it would be what you call having committed suicide. One moment. One moment. It is difficult for us to determine which of these is most linearly connected, as we are also getting other ideas, other connections, because many of you have alternate time track realities that are difficult for us to segregate from our particular perspective, because we see you as a weave of threads, a weave of energy. One moment. You may have also begun to be involved in what might be called a war effort during that lifetime. You may have, in that sense, died accidentally in attempting to be of service somehow. One moment it was that you went into, It is clearing for us. It is clearing. One moment. From the idea of being what you call a preparer of food, it was deemed that you would also be good as a medical assistant. You went in during the beginning of this warfare into medical assistance and were accidentally killed by some form of weapon explosion. You understand?
What country location is that?
Again, as we have said, beginning in what you call your England. You did have some experience in your northern European area. You have strong connections to that England area with regard to that life. One moment. All right. Is there some specific avenue down which you wish to take this idea?
No, I just felt that I should know.
How do you feel that this information may or may not have served you? How can you apply this idea to your present idea of self and incarnation?
I just think it might clear away some sort of baggage which I'm carrying around.
What baggage do you imagine you are carrying?
Something which is holding me back from...
Back from what?
From what I feel I should progress further than I am spiritually.
In what way?
Uh,
Is there some particular expression or creative format that would allow you to feel or know or believe that you have progressed in the way that you want to? How would you know? What would you recognize as being representative of your spiritual progress?
Probably leave material things a little bit more in the background.
Leave material things a little bit more in the background. You know, it is not always so that spiritual progress is at the forfeiture of material things. It will depend upon the frequency of the individual, and it will depend upon the purpose of the life. Many individuals can do many spiritual things while flowing through their reality many material manifestations. It's how they use them that determines the spiritual quality, not whether so much they have them or not. You understand the difference?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Does that help clarify one of the cobwebs?
Yeah, very much so, actually.
Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
All right. Good day to you.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
It's Mark.
Oh, all right, if you can.
2 questions, if I may.
Yes.
Do you have any information on the meaning or purpose of the structures that are on Mars in an area called Fredonia?
Yes. They were left by your own ancient civilization before you began to incarnate on Earth. You used to, as a civilization, be on Mars when it was inhabitable by your species, or a species similar to what you are now. You were not, as a species, as a race, exactly human, but close. In those times, what you call millions of your years ago, you had civilization, you incarnated from other star systems into civilization in the Martian environment, and as Mars became less and less habitable for a variety of reasons, began to incarnate into the manifestations of bodily form that were coming into fruition on the planet of Earth. The civilization shifted planets in that way, but left behind are a few remnants from the civilization all of you, or many of you at least, used to be. You have left markers in that sense, and when you go back and finally find these things and explore them in great detail, you will find many ancient memories being unlocked and awakened within many of you.
Is there a connection to the moon as well?
To some degree, although not exactly in the same way. Many of the remnants of things you will find on the moon belong to extraterrestrial bases more specifically. Some of them exceedingly ancient. In fact, there is one that you will discover that has been long abandoned and is mostly in ruins. That was the base, the temporary base, of the species that had a lot to do with some of the original genetic manipulation that brought about the humanoid form on your planet out of the indigenous species as you now know it.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question specifically enough?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, my old friend.
And to you good day. One moment, if you please. By the way, on the issue of the concept of the structures in the Cydonia region of Mars and your Earth's attempt to photograph them, many of you are of the opinion that your scientists intentionally shut down the cameras at the last moment so that they would be privy to those pictures rather than delivering the images to your general public. It was the intention of many of your scientists to do this, but the reason that the spacecraft was shut down is not because your scientists did it, it is because we did it.
Many times before, we always thank
You, the channel, but I know there are quite a few others who assist you in...
Oh, yes. When we say we are talking about a lot of different beings that are telepathically plugged into this communication.
Well, I would like to also thank all of we.
All right. Thank you. Do understand that, again, we also includes many aspects of yourselves. There are aspects of your future selves, aspects of your higher selves, many different aspects of your oversoul consciousness that participate in this interaction. So in many senses, when you are dialoguing with us, you're also dialoguing with other portions of your collective consciousness.
Okay, in particular, one pretty little silver-haired girl that I've met, could that be my future self? Or is that just a friend
It is more a close friend.
Good. Okay.
Does that help you?
Yes, it does. Quite a bit. I couldn't see myself sending back and doing these things. At any rate.
It is not that it is impossible that you can, but that is simply not the case in terms of the vibration or the entity you are referring to right now.
Okay. I have a great love for the history of the Civil War.
Oh, all right. We assume you mean the one in the country in which you now reside.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Brother against brother.
Well, there were sisters against sisters as well. Sisters against brothers,
True.
brothers against sisters, mothers against fathers, you know.
Which time around?
For many people during that entire conflagration.
Okay. There was a part of this life that I took off, and I went down to Texas.
Yes.
And I stayed quite a while, and there was someone there that I had felt like I had known forever,
Yes.
and which I probably have. The area that I was most familiar with, unbeknownst to me at the time, was Galveston, because I could walk around and see and know what was around the corner without turning the corner, so to speak.
All right.
And I would like for you to, if possible, to give me some kind of a brief synopsis of that era. In other words, was I in Galveston?
Yes. In the area, now you know as Galveston. Yes. Familiarity with the area is familiarity with the energy of the area, even though there have been many changes. You took the familiarity with the energy of the area and translated it into a familiarity with the specific layout of the area now in present time. It was a time of relief for you, of breathing space for you in the midst of great strife. And so you enjoyed partaking of walks and talks and not having to worry about conflict and death and despair. And so, in this lifetime, you are picking up upon that resonance, that freedom, that openness, and translating it into a familiarity that you can now create to be related to the specific pattern of the city as it now exists in present time.
Okay,
Many of you do this. Many of you sometimes will feel so at home in certain places, even though physiologically those places may not have existed physically back in ancient times. It may be that the energy vibration of the area is similar to what you experienced in other lives that you felt were places and vibrations that put you more in touch with your true self, and now in this life can be recognized as having the ability to do so again.
Was this time perhaps around the 1890s?
1870. 1875 to 1880, and again you visited in 1883.
Okay, let me see if I... at the time, I was a gambler on a riverboat. I knew every lady in town.
No, not everyone.
Almost.
You gambled from time to time on a riverboat a few times, in other places more often, what you call saloons, bars, so on and so forth. You knew a few ladies.
The so on and so forth is the part that I'm getting at.
The salon.
The red light district. Yes,
Yes, all right, yes.
Okay.
And so.
I kind of wondered about that because in this lifetime I've been a bartender.
Yes.
I've waited on many girls of the evening.
Yes.
And I have never felt the urge to gamble.
Yes. This is
I
not
never got any
necessarily a
kick out of it.
mysterious thing. Just because it is something that may have occupied your attention in one life doesn't necessarily mean that it must in another, but you can recognize an affinity for it, and certainly you have wound up in what is recognized as the capital of this pastime on your planet.
Okay. Did the last 1883 lifetime end in Oklahoma, or better, what was known at that time as
Wyoming.
the Nations?
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Yes, you were actually in Wyoming. You thought you were in Oklahoma. Many things were not quite as clear-cut as they are now in your present society. And sometimes many individuals thought they were in one state when in fact they were in an entirely different state.
Okay, that...
You were in Wyoming, but it might as well for you have been Oklahoma.
Can we agree it was the Indian nation?
Yes.
Okay. At that time, did I meet my demise by a flu, a virus?
It is one time, yes. More what you would call smallpox.
Okay. And
You succumbed to the same kind of things that many individuals in what you call the Native American nation succumbed to. It was, in that sense, transferred in many of the goods that they were traded purposely. You understand?
yes.
Yes, many of the goods that many of what you call your army individuals traded to the Native Americans were purposely infected with smallpox. And you simply were, well, I'll just put it this way, though you know I don't mean it, at the wrong place at the wrong
No,
time.
no. The reason I asked that question was on the basis of images that I've gotten in my mind, dreams, etc., and so forth,
Yes,
of being on the run
yes.
because I had killed a man on a riverboat with a .32 caliber captain ball.
You did have an altercation. It wasn't necessarily originally your intention to cause terminal harm to that individual, but yes, you did. And you knew that there would be no way you could explain it. Now, can you allow, for the moment, yourself to digest this information and let us allow another individual some access time?
I certainly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And do you good day.
Thank you. I meditate very regularly.
Oh, all right.
Usually when I finish meditation, I'm in a very peaceful, calm state that
Oh.
carries over into most of my life.
All right. Is there a butt coming up?
Well, there's an
right.
and. I don't know about
And, all
and.
right.
Okay. And then sometimes
Yes.
a person, event, something comes along and certain things like emotions come up.
Yes, very good. It's all right for them to do so.
Yes. They seem to be a totally different quality to me. They seem to be something that's, I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question
All
is,
right.
could
Well,
you compare the meditative...
Usually, still remember, you have been for thousands of years a planet of fragmented consciousness, and you have still, in many of your consciousnesses, certain portions of yourselves that have been shoved into compartments and closets, and need to come to the surface. There are still many portions of your consciousness that you need to integrate. It is all right. It is, as you say, par for the course. It goes along with the territory. You are integrating, all of you. You are doing your best in that way. Do not worry that you still will find from time to time that these ideas of old issues, old patterns, old pains, old fears, old doubts will come up. The very fact that you are creating a space of peace for yourself is what allows you to know that when they come up, you can handle them. You can transform them by getting in touch with why they're there to begin with, by re-experiencing the vibration as it was, shall we say, imprinted into you when you were younger and didn't know what to do with it then, and now that you're an adult, can bring back to the surface and know how to deal with it by flowing through the experience as it happened before, and then in feeling what did happen, allowing yourself to recognize why it happened, allow yourself to recognize what you would have preferred to have happened, feel that emotion instead that empowers you instead of disempowering you, and replace the belief system with a new belief system that allows you to have truly learned from the experience and transformed it into what you prefer it to be. You understand?
Yes, thank you.
It is your meditations and your spiritual activities that allow you to know it's all right to let these feelings come up. For now, your society is still going to experience many of these things. Please do not assume that just because you are on a spiritual path that means you're not going to experience any more of these particular kinds of emotional energies. For right now, you're actually going to experience more of them because you are willing to integrate them at this time, and you have to bring them all up to the surface very rapidly so you can, in fact, get about the process of acting more holistically by integrating these components within you that are still functioning as fragmented aspects of your consciousness. Make sense?
Yes, so sometimes it's okay to go into workshops, inner child, and things
Of
like that,
course.
where you actually bring them up consciously.
Yes, of course. The more consciously you are willing to do this, the more you will consciously recognize why they were created, what you have to learn from them, and once you own it, more consciously will you be capable of transforming it. Because remember, you do not get rid of these things. You do not go from that to something else. You only have one energy out of which all of your experiences are created. So it's an issue of transforming the form that it's in now to another form. But it's the same energy. The only way you can transform it is to acknowledge and own whatever format it happens to be in now. And this does not necessarily mean that it is blaming you for it being in that form, but you have been convinced that it must be in that form through some particular kind of definitional belief structure that perhaps your parents or your society spoon-fed you as a child because their parents did it to them, and their parents did it to them, and their parents did it to them. You are now in the transformational age where you have the greatest opportunity to break this chain by taking the responsibility to deal with the issues instead of continuing in a pattern of denial. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your strength and your commitment to conviction.
Good evening.
And to you good day.
I would like to know, seems like I'm frequently awakened between midnight and 3 o'clock.
I see.
And I feel like I'm consciously awakened, but then nothing happens. And I'm wondering if it's just me waking up or if there is a connection that needs to be made that I'm
There
blocking.
have been certain circumstances, again, that have occurred from time to time, and a lot of them do occur at that particular format, especially around what you call 3 a.m. in the morning, when you are most psychically receptive to interdimensional linking and bridging. But sometimes, because you remember that these incidents have happened, you will also wake yourself up because you expect them to happen again. They do not happen every time you wake up, but they have happened sometimes. You understand?
I understand the difference, but I don't feel like I've ever been given the information, even though I do feel like they have consciously awakened me.
Yes. But the idea is that there are timings to some of these things, and some portions of your consciousness sometimes are simply not ready to allow yourself to absorb exactly what is going on for one reason or another. You can simply ask, if you wish, ask every night for more consciousness, for more conscious realization. May I ask you a question now?
Of course.
Why, thank you very much.
No problem.
If, just play along in your imagination, in your emotionality for right now, just for a moment, is that all right?
Oh, wonderful.
All right. If you did ask for more conscious recognition of what's going on, if you did, in fact, become more conscious, how do you think you'd feel? What's your first response? Don't think, don't analyze.
Good.
All right. Good about what?
Good about being open.
Being open. What does being open allow you to do?
To get the information so that I can share it.
In what way do you like to share information? What is your way?
Writing or talking.
All right. Do you think you can be of assistance in sharing the information you will get with other people?
Yes, I do.
All right. Ask for more conscious recognition of what is going on for you on different levels. You will eventually get it. Now, one moment. Do you have, in your conscious awareness at this time, any particular fear in your life?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. In any situation that you can imagine, in all the situations in your life, is there anything that you feel hesitant about because you are apprehensive of what might occur? Do not forget to include the idea of discovering your full power, because sometimes on your planet, the recognition of the discovery of your full power causes many of you to be afraid.
I guess that could happen. I would be afraid that I might misuse it.
Ah, thank you. Really, you know, intentionally, there is no reason why you would.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
All right. If such a time should come, when you ask for more consciousness, and you get in touch with more of what's going on, and you get in touch with more of your true high vibration and power, just remember, just in case It comes up. Just remember, your intention is what determines what will happen. Just the fact that you recognize it might be possible to, as you say, misuse the power, doesn't mean you will. Do you understand?
I understand.
All right. Has this helped you?
I guess what I understand is
Ask
that,
for more conscious recognition of what's going on.
but it's the
It
fear
will eventually be given to you.
okay, but the fear is what has been blocking.
It may not even really be the concept of fear as much as it simply may be that you are used to looking at things in a particular way because of your physiological paradigm.
Okay.
You need perhaps to break through by forming new associations. We can suggest a particular exercise that may help you do this.
Great.
Allow yourself to write down, and all of you can do this if you wish, write down the names of different objects on little pieces of paper. Create a lot of little pieces of paper with names of objects on them. Cloud, chair, fish, so on and so forth. Take all of these, fold them up, and put them in a bowl, a hat, whatever a receptacle you wish to do. Pull one out, then without looking, pull another one out. Open them up and look at them. And in a imagination exercise game, make a link, make an associative bridge through a series of words between the first word and the second word until you find some common link to things that seem to have no commonality. Again, as an analogy, for example, you pull the word fish, you pull the word cloud. All right. What do these have in associative commonality?
Water.
Fish live in water, clouds are made of water. So, you will find from time to time that there will be things that seem relatively obscure that there may not be an apparent link for. The more obscure, apparently, the connection, the more your imagination needs to search for some kind of link between things that do not seem to have an association, the farther you will stretch your ability to be capable of perceiving things that go on in other realities for which your mind usually does not have an understanding of how to interpret. You understand?
Yes.
Then, you will, in having experiences, remember more of those experiences consciously because you will give yourself the symbology that will make sense to you, the symbology your mind can use to clothe the experience in some way, shape, or form that makes sense, translatably makes sense in your reality. Sometimes you don't remember these things just because they are of such another quality, your mind has no symbols it can use to translate that event into your reality. All right?
Great. Thank you.
Fine.
Can I ask you one more question?
That was a question.
Two more.
Yes.
I've had an urge to buy land in Colorado, and I don't know if that's a personality urge or if it's a true message. Am I to be purchasing land there?
Just because it might be a personality urge does not mean it is not aligned with your truth, but I understand what you mean. If you find that it is very exciting to you, very alluring, very magnetizing, be open to acting on whatever opportunities present themselves for you to do so, and assume that if it is really meant to be a reflection of your truth, it will very rapidly and very effortlessly fall into place. Otherwise, if it is not necessary, it will not.
Thank you.
Just be open to the opportunities, and if they do not present themselves, then the lure may be for other reasons other than what your mind is assuming right now.
Great. Thank you.
Remember, please, all of you, that when we talk about acting on your excitement because it is representative of your truth, that does not mean that acting on that excitement necessitates that the particular venue or format through which the excitement comes must go to some kind of linear completion. Sometimes you are magnetized in a particular direction by excitement just because you need to be pulled in that direction, not because you need to complete that particular thing that you are right now excited about. Sometimes you have to trick yourselves to move in a certain direction by being enticed by a certain idea, but that doesn't mean that that's the reason you are being pulled in that direction. The more conscious recognition you have about the synchronicities that go on in your life, the more consciously you choose to be within the vibration of your excitement and your truth, the more you will be aware of many times, not always, but many times, why you are being pulled in a certain direction. You understand?
Yes.
You will not have to trick yourself or fool yourself, because your higher self knows that there might be a portion of yourself that would be in denial if it knew where it was really headed. You understand what I am saying?
Yes.
Sometimes people on your planet would say, oh, well, I'd love to go in this direction. Oh, but that's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to be very painful. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I don't want to do this. And I don't want to do that, because it has certain expectations and ideas and assumptions about the process, instead of realizing it can all be exciting. So your higher self, yourself, working in concert, will say, all right, let's dangle this little carrot out here to lure the personality in that direction, so that by the time they get this far, there'll be no way they can turn back, and they will then ultimately see, if they relax a little bit, that that's exactly where they really needed to be, that serves them the best. You understand?
I do. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Good day, Bashar.
I do you good day.
Last evening, I was playing racquetball.
Racquetball.
All
Yes.
right. And in so doing, with the twisting of the upper body to swing at the ball and that kind of stuff, I
Yes.
wound up injuring myself.
Oh, all right.
So my question basically is, can you give me any kind of a specific information that I can give to a, so to speak, body mechanic, someone who will work on me, so to speak, to alleviate the problem?
All right. Maybe it's time to change your racket.
A new racket.
Yes.
Am I going to tennis from racquetball?
Not exactly.
Oh.
All right. We are, to some degree, having a little bit of fun with you.
Oh, good.
Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to give up racquetball
Uh-huh.
if you really enjoy it.
I do.
All right. One moment. Let us scan. To some degree, the reason that you have done this is to put yourself in touch with something that perhaps needs to be taken care of now physiologically to prevent something more from having happened later on. You gave yourself a little bit of a stiffening to start paying attention to those areas physiologically that may have been more severely compromised by something coming up that you may have been creating for yourself in the near future. In doing it this way, you may have actually diverted yourself from needing to go further in that experience. Sometimes many of you will do it this way. You'll give yourself a little bit of a pinch, bring yourself up a little short, because you knew that if you kept going, you may have had to really throw yourself into crisis in order to prevent certain things from happening. This, to some degree, on one level, is what you have done. Allow yourself to be attracted to a body worker now that can help you. To some degree, if you will approach what might classically be called in your language deep neuromuscular pressure, then you will find that this deep neuromuscular pressure in certain areas neurologically on your body will evoke certain electromagnetic patterns that have been going on within you, will bring up to your consciousness memories, ideas, feelings, recognitions that may have been running around in your system in an electromagnetic encodation. And in having them come up to your recognition, you may be able to transform and alleviate certain things which may have actually been more problematical later on. It's time for a little tune-up before your engine actually burns up. You understand?
All right.
So, in getting those adjustments now, you will find that you will run more smoothly when it is critical that you do so. Because there are things coming up that are going to require, in many ways, that you really think on your feet, go with the flow, be very flexible. So, you are giving yourself an opportunity now to go a little deeper with your flexibility, to really get at the core of some of the patterns and the issues that have been running around within you because of upbringing and so on and so forth, because of idea patterns. And this getting in touch with the nerve, touching, pressing, is literally like rerouting circuits in your body to bring up issues that have been encoded into electrical patterns. As you lay on the table and as these pressures are applied, you may feel emotional releases. You may get images, symbolic or memory images of things that have occurred as a child or later on. And when these come to light, you will feel yourself start to release these old patterns and to start to experience more freedom after the fact than you have up to this point. All right?
All right, and associated maybe with this idea, now
Right.
my son, just here about within the last hour, has told me that he will be going tomorrow morning to a rebirthing, and has invited me along.
All right, then this may be a synchronous occurrence for you.
And one other comment, part of the whole event, in dealing with people that do body work. One particular person is one of my younger sisters. And I think that we have been maybe over the years at different times at odds with each other or whatnot. I think that there has been maybe possibly some problem that exists between us that maybe allows her not to be able to help me out as much as she might be able to.
All right. Take advantage right now of whatever is being synchronistically presented to you as an opportunity to, in some sense, rebirth, reform yourself, and also look for openings, look for more opportunities during this entire time for deeper connections with your family. In this way, all of this is for the purpose of integration of yourselves individually and collectively, familially, and on many different levels as well. And it can all be done through these various formats, at least for right now, of bodywork, release, rebirth, and getting back in touch with things that you may have been out of touch with for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Had an interesting dream the other night about...
An interesting dream? Oh, I do share.
I was in my apartment and the door was open and this fellow had problems with his transmission.
Yes.
He came into my apartment.
Yes.
And kind of put his arm around my shoulder and we were just chatting, and then all of a sudden these white lights came into the room and colored lights, and I told him not to be afraid.
Yes.
And we walked into the light.
Yes.
Then the next day, in my physical reality,
yes,
I was going into work, and I heard this whirring sound, like whir, 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 real strong, and I looked back at the freeway to see where this sound was coming from. And then I realized it was in my head or it was in something that I couldn't see.
Yes.
So could you clarify exactly what my experience was?
Was it similar to the idea of...
Yes.
Thank you. This, again, is a vibrational common pattern when you are dealing with connections and links to other dimensions of reality.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the ways your physical senses interpret the interface between the two different vibrational frequencies of your reality and another dimensional frequency. This lets you know you are getting more and more and more in touch with more of yourself. And then, like an antenna attracting the particular program, so to speak, you are tuned to. You all know this as far as your radio and television devices. You all know that, generally speaking, aside from certain times of overlap and interference, that you only get the program that your dial is tuned to. Well, if you don't like the program you're getting, change your dial to another frequency, and you will see your reality change. Because your reality is only a reflection of whatever frequency you assume you need to operate on. Make sense?
A lot.
And since you are strongly involved in radio frequencies, I would think that you would understand this analogy very rapidly.
I knew you'd chose that one.
Thank you.
There was just one quick other question.
Oh, all right. One quick one.
Okay.
Oh, time's up.
I have been acknowledging my feelings quite a bit, and
Yes.
there's one that I'm not sure I understand, and that
right.
is, it seems to me, when the planet is appearing to be stressful in terms of seismic activity, whether it's volcanoes or earthquakes.
Yes, here and there on your world, yes.
There is almost a sadness that I feel,
Yes.
and when I get in touch with that feeling, it doesn't feel like it's from me. It's almost like a sadness for the planet.
Yes,
and I'm not
you
sure.
are tapping into a collective energy that recognizes its concepts of transformation, of letting go, of what you usually translate as loss, but are recognizing as simply the sloughing off of old selves that you have been very, very, very familiar with for a long time, and you really are in many ways saying goodbye to yourselves and finally growing up.
Okay.
It is that kind of passage. You are finally all becoming adults, slowly, for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of your years. Even though you may have been physically mature at some points in your life, you will find that very rarely have you ever actually been adults, because the kind of limiting belief system patterns that are usually imposed upon you generation after generation have never allowed you to be the children you could be. And so, without being the children you really needed to be, you cannot possibly grow into the adult until you become the children first that you would like to have been, and then allow that child to grow into the adult you can be. But you are all now finally coming into true maturation and adulthood. So, as an adult, you should really still appreciate that the wisdom of children is to never forget how to play. Children instinctively know how to manifest reality. They see it, they feel it, and they play act it out. They already know the tools necessary for manifestation. But many of the so-called adults tell them that when they grow up, they've got to stop playing, stop acting so childlike. And that short-circuits the adult's ability through play to manifest the realities of their dreams. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So, have fun.
Thank you, Bashar. Good evening. What a treat.
And to you, good day. Interaction with your species is an ecstatic exercise for us as well.
Thank you. I have gone through some acceleration in the very recent past.
Oh, all right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That has seemed to totally transform who I thought I was. I would like to know if you have any information about this that you would like to share with me that would be of assistance to me in going even having more acceleration in growth, and a good idea of how to stay centered while this is going on. Because
a good idea of how to stay centered is to not necessarily determine that you can be out of your center. A good idea of staying centered is to not necessarily think that you need to find a way to stay centered.
All right, thank you.
Now, I understand, again, that paradoxically many of you feel from time to time that you are out of your center, and you recognize that this can be so. But what we are simply pointing out is that sometimes many of you worry when you have nothing to worry about. And the worrying about having something to worry about is what causes all the worries. And all the things that you think then you need to correct. So, to ask you simply, are you acting to the best of your ability, as best as you can every moment, on your excitement?
Yes.
Well, then, there's nothing I need to help you with.
Thank you.
Do you understand this?
Yes.
Anything that comes up on your path of acting on your excitement is what you need to look at to integrate within yourself and become a more holistic and expanded being. If you are really, let's bring it down to the most fundamental concept, if you really are acting to the best of your intentional ability, as best as you can, you're doing your best to act on your excitement and be as true as you can to your truth and your joy. There's really nothing else you need to hear from me or anyone else. Take what advice works for you. Leave what doesn't. Change your mind when you feel like it. Act in your joy. Have fun. That's the formula. You understand?
Yes.
It really can be that simple, but when it seems more complex, dive in, both feet, explore what is there in the complexity that ultimately will give you enough information to allow it to be transformed into the simplicity that really exists everywhere. Does that make some sense?
I kind of knew that.
Yes, I know you did. That's why there's really nothing I need to say to you.
Thank
Except
you.
It's always delightful to chat.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Ours as well. One moment. It has been sent to me to be reminded of and to remind each and every one of you again in the concept of coincidence and synchronicity abounding in your reality now more and more and more and more, as we have pointed out many times that you are going now into an energy phase, leaving an old energy phase. The colloquial nomenclature of the old phase would be called the Orion phase, of limitation and constriction and doubt and negativity, going into a more positive, integrated, holistic phase, which usually, from time to time, goes under the recognition of the name the Sirius phase. That is, Sirius as in the star system of Sirius, not Sirius as in being serious. The idea is to recognize that the facility wherein this communication is taking place on your planet is located very close to a street called Sirius, and is therefore representative of no accident in placing yourself in proximity to the energy in the direction in which you know you are all headed. More light, more enlightenment, more lightening up the energy of the star Sirius that is reflected in the telepathic communications that come from that civilization to you, and is most keenly expressed in the civilization on your planet called the cetacean, dolphin, and whale. They are very strongly connected to the Sirius energy, and if you really want to learn how to play, go and take your example from them. Now then, to continue.
Hello to all.
And to you, from all, good day.
Thank you. On my path up here, I've had a lot of questions answered, but I'm going to go forward.
Oh, all right, by all means.
What information can you give me as to my purpose of service in this life?
Oh, please. What excites you the most? It's as simple as that. At any given moment, do the most exciting thing that you are capable of doing something about. That is the purpose of your life. You are a unique individual. Even though you have many lives, as all of you do, you have never been this you before, you will never be this you again. This life only has one life to live. So, the purpose of this life is to be this you as fully as you possibly can. That simply means that the purpose of your life is to act on the thing that excites you the most, because the excitement vibration, the unconditional love vibration, the balance vibration is the vibration of your highest self. So if you always take action to the best of your ability on the opportunities that are presented to you that contain the highest degree of excitement that you are most capable of doing something about, you are, a step at a time, fulfilling the purpose of your life and living as best as you can in the moment. And that's really it. It's up to you to decide what that exciting thing is at any given moment. And to know that by choosing it, you're actually being of best service to everyone by being your most total self and acting as a living example to everyone else that they can do so as well. In other words, when they see how ecstatic you are being you, they will want to know what your secret is. And all you have to do is say, just be yourself.
Very good.
Does that help you?
Oh, that helps me a lot. I just recently have met a gentleman that we connected on a very high energy level.
All right. And so what do you want to do with this connection? Are you having a good time?
That's my question.
Well, answer it. What do you want to do with it?
I want it all, but I see a block around the physical relationship.
It may not necessarily be a block, but it may be an area of exploration that will allow you to move forward if you allow... Are you paying attention?
I'm paying.
If you allow the relationship to be what it is and not what you expect it ought to be for.
I have not a clue what it's for.
Good. Then don't assume and just let it be what it is, and you will not experience anything about it as a block, but it will be an arrow pointing in an unexpected direction that is exactly the path and the direction you need to explore. To give you the information to more fully be yourself, and to allow you to allow the other person or people in the relationship to more fully find out who they are so they can be more fully themselves, which after all is really the purpose to all relationship, to allow everyone in the relationship, allow the other people to discover how to be more of themselves as they allow you to discover how to be more of yourself. Does this make some sense?
Yes, but I still have a lot of confusion around it.
Yes, well, I took your hesitation to mean no.
That's true. You're right. You're right.
All right.
That is no.
What is your confusion?
I feel like if we follow a physical relationship, that I'm going to be, and he's going to be out of integrity.
All right, then don't do it. Unless you can
But then
allow
I have
yourself.
all these feelings.
All right, one moment.
Okay.
Unless you can together explore these feelings, these beliefs, and together perhaps discover through open, clear, honest communication with everyone that might be involved on any level as to how perhaps there might be avenues that would allow you to move in that direction that would not be representative of being out of integrity.
Thank you.
And if you discover that there are no ways to move in that direction that would not be representative of being out of your integrity, then know that if you feel badly about that, then it is the issues that allow you to feel badly that the purpose of the relationship is for, to get you in touch with those issues that allow you to feel that way and find out why you would react that way when presented with a particular concept of a relationship. Then the relationship is serving you in its actual purpose by allowing you to get in touch with why you feel the way you feel and integrating those concepts within yourself and allowing the relationship to really serve its purpose in that sense. Then, who knows, as you use the relationship for what it's for, it could also change. Because once something serves a purpose, it no longer needs to stay in the same format, and different kinds of things can then come up that may all of a sudden open doors that were not open before because you were willing to use the relationship for what it was for. Many times, individuals find they get nowhere, so to speak, in a relationship, and it never changes, and they go round and round and round about the same old thing because they are not willing to begin with to allow the relationship to really be why it is there. Once they allow it to be what it is, many times it changes automatically, and ultimately they actually do wind up with what they originally thought they wanted. I'm not saying it always works that way, but it will not make a difference. Because if you use the relationship for what it is for, it will change you in a way that will still attract to you. No matter who it is, whatever relationship is absolutely appropriate for that moment, and if you get in touch with that, you will not care who it is because it will feel exactly right. This is how these things work themselves out. Everything is aligned, and everything in allowance automatically balances and feels correct and appropriate.
Thank you very
Does this
much.
make some sense?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Why? Thank you. And please, do remember, the first relationship is with yourself.
Absolutely.
If you do not have that relationship, you're not in a relationship with anyone else anywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And do you? Oh, what's the phrase? Good day.
Good day. I need some help. I'm trying to figure out.
All right. What are you attempting to figure out?
I really hate snakes.
Hate snakes?
And I do not know where it comes from.
All right. May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Thank you. Do they hate you?
I have no idea.
Oh, all right. Why don't you ask one?
Don't want to get that close.
Well, you can shout.
No.
Hey, snake! How do you feel about me?
No. No, it is. I don't even want to see a picture of one.
Oh, too late. You probably thought of one in your mind.
I did. I don't like it. Don't like it. I really can't understand.
You don't
because
understand.
I've had no experience in this lifetime to give for a reason for it.
All right. Now, there are a variety of ways to begin this concept of exploration. Let's go back to the foundation we laid down just to see how that plays, or shall we say, rattles around in your mind. Do you remember that we talked about the idea that everything is made out of the same one particle?
Yes.
Well, you are the snake, and the snake is you. First of all, what do you hate about yourself?
Ooh.
Ooh. Hiss.
Oh, my God.
Was that too biting of a question?
Oh, my
What do you hate about yourself?
I'd have to think about that a
All
while.
right. Take your time.
Oh, my God, I don't know.
Oh, come.
No, I really don't. I understand the concept.
Yes, I know. We are not saying
Unfortunately,
that
I
individuals...
understand the concept.
Yes. We do not say that individuals sometimes do not bring with them from other life experiences reactions that seem to be out of proportion to the experience of their present life. And to some degree, this is the case with you. But that doesn't matter. There are still present ways of dealing with this that are not necessarily saying that you are controlled by your negative experience in other lives with the concept of that animal. Even though that may have happened, it doesn't mean that you are limited and restricted in this life from dealing with it in a variety of different ways. You understand? Kinda. All right. The idea, again, is to remember that even though you may have had experiences that were scary in other lives with snakes, and that you may, to some degree, be carrying that vibration through to this life, it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot alleviate that vibration with the elements and the tools that exist in your present life, rather than feeling you have to necessarily go back to that life to figure out what happened, although sometimes that can be a beneficial idea as well. We prefer to help you remain in the present with this idea. And the first thing to recognize is, even though it may actually have been the result, your fear, of an actual encounter physically in another life with this animal that, well, left a bad mark upon you, allow yourself to simply recognize that still it is interpreted by your consciousness in a symbolic way, and it is the alteration of your consciousness that is necessary to change the quality of this experience in your present life. So, if you cannot immediately get in touch with what the snake represents for you, allow yourself to start by amplifying the fear that you are in touch with. If you find that you are afraid of something, you've got a good, solid grasp on that experience. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt you're afraid. You want to have nothing to do with this idea, with this being, with this animal. So, let's work with what you know is there. What's there? The fear. So work with it. The way you work with it is carry it further. Don't run away from the fear. Even if you run away from the snake, don't run away from the fear. Ask yourself, what do you really fear? What is the fear really all about? Let's work with what you know how to do best. So, the question is, what is the worst possible thing you are afraid might happen should you come in contact with a snake? Pick the worst, the most terrifying, the most horrible. Let's use that negative imagination to its full benefit to help you.
I can't stand the thought of it even touching it.
All right. So, you're saying that the worst possible thing would be just to touch it, or is there something worse? What if it touched you? Would that be worse? If you didn't initiate the touch?
Oh, I couldn't stand it.
Then I assume what you're saying is yes, that would be
handle it.
worse. Is that what you are saying?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Is there something that would be worse? What if it started crawling on you?
No.
I think we are discovering different degrees of fear, different levels of amplification. So you are now implying through your energy that the snake crawling on you would be worse than it just touching you, and worse than you touching it. Is this a fair assumption so far?
At this point, I would have strokes already.
So I'm assuming that means you would be very afraid.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything? Oh, well, you've just given us a clue. I suppose what would be worse is that the snake would crawl on you and you wouldn't have a stroke. You'd have to continue to put up with it.
Yes.
That would be worse.
Yes.
A stroke would be a way out. But let's say you don't have a stroke. There's no way out. You have to feel it continue to crawl on you, and that would be worse.
Ooh,
Boy, we're having fun with the fear now. Our imaginations are running wild, looking at all the ways it could be worse and worse and worse and worse yet. Let's carry this further. Don't want to give up on this, having way too much fun with you. Thank you for providing such sparkling entertainment, by the way. What would be worse than having it crawl on you and you not being able to pass out, blank out, or get away? What if it crawled right up and looked you right in the eye? Then what would you do? Would you be paralyzed, frozen with fear? Would you be unable to
If I could
speak?
break the paralysis, I'd kill it.
Ah. Would you?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Can you see yourself doing that? Can you see yourself breaking through the fear and killing it?
If I actually push me against the wall, yeah.
All right. Imagine you are, absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, no other option, pushed against the wall. In the corner, it's right there, 1 inch from your face. You have no other option. Do you feel what you do? Do you feel yourself reaching out and boom, it's dead? Now, how does that feel? Does that feel freeing, releasing?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So, the snake has now acted as a symbol to take you through at least one level of a fear to the point where you are actually capable of acting and releasing it. So the snake has actually served you. You follow me?
Yeah.
All right. This can happen layer at a time. Whatever layers are there, what we are perceiving is that the snake is your, as you used to put it in a colloquial way, medicine totem. It is your animal totem to help you learn to break through fears, to know that even in the most paralyzing fear, you can still break through and act and do the things you need to do for yourself. The snake is this teacher for you, a very strong medicine for you. You can use this exercise again and again to strip away the layers of fear by imagining this confrontation and taking yourself over and over again, practicing over and over again this confrontation. Stripping away, breaking through the fear, killing the snake in this metaphor, in this exercise, until such time as you have stripped away all the fear and actually find yourself on neutral ground with the snake. And ultimately, believe it or not, and you don't have to believe it right now, you will actually come to love the snake. The snake is your teacher in this life because of a connection you had in another life. And a lot of those connections were very, very positive. But you've also had some great fears handed to you. And the snake has come back to act as your guide and your teacher through this experience to help you strip away these fears, layer by layer, as a snake sheds its skin. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So use this exercise. Go through it all the way till you break through, kill the snake, see and feel the release. Do it again and again and again and again until you arrive at a place of balance with this idea. All right?
Thank you.
That is our suggestion and the suggestion from the consciousness of your snake guide.
Thank you.
Now, slither off.
Hello, Bashar.
Hello, you good day.
I have a question having to do with some alien contact, I suppose. Well, yes, some alien contact.
All right.
I believe I was 16, yet I might be about 21. I have an ability to transpose myself or something, so I'm not sure what would enable you to help me pinpoint that, if you would give me some information on this.
Can you be more specific about the experiences you recognize you did have?
The experience was I was laying in bed, and it was below the window, outside the window, the second story. It felt like a big ship outside. It felt dimensionally invisible, if that makes sense. I was unable to turn my head. There were two beings in back of me, and I had that wide awake, paralyzed feeling, and suddenly it was broken.
A lot of that is going around now in your society.
And after that, I got up and ran into the other room to see if my sister was okay.
And?
She was fine, unaware of anything going on.
All right.
she was asleep.
And so, what do you want to do with the recognition that you have had these interactions with these beings on several occasions, more than you remember?
Right. It just occurs to me tonight that the time has come for me to start remembering.
Okay.
Is there a direction, information, or anything you can give me?
Gain some assistance through perhaps someone you trust in the hypnotherapeutic regression area, if you wish to remember more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yes.
Then, attract to yourself someone that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, who can help guide you into those memories without leading you there. Just letting you remember in your own way, letting the experience come up, positive or negative, whatever you recall it to be, and get more in touch with the consciousness of the interaction. For it has, in that sense, been going on for most of you who have had these experiences for all of your lives. You are only just remembering these incidents.
Okay, that would be your strongest recommendation of the path.
Yes.
Okay, is there any information you can give me?
No.
Okay.
Not at this time. That would, in any way, shape, or form, not be disruptive to you. But there will be others who can give you information. Again, ask for it in your dream reality, and your guides can, to some degree, assist you. Ask for more consciousness in these interactions, and eventually it will be granted to you. But do whatever you can to aid yourself in having more conscious recollection of these things that are going on. For more and more and more of these experiences are coming to light, and the more light you give it, the more you will be able to become equal to it, and the more conscious interaction you will have on your own terms.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
How to, Bashar?
And to you. Good day.
Good day. I wanted to ask you, before Ray was up there, and he had spoken about paralysis and abduction experiences.
Yes.
And you had said something to the effect that they were checking up on him to make sure that he was still going along with their agenda.
Yes.
All right, now, if he chose not to, doesn't he have the free choice or free will to break it off?
To some degree, yes, there are ways to change that agenda, although remember that on some higher levels, the Oversoul recognizes that there may be some great beneficial purpose ultimately to this agenda that will aid and assist your entire planet. And it may not, shall we say, completely allow the agenda to stop, but your personality and other aspects of you can certainly allow, once you get in touch with other aspects of your consciousness, the agenda to take different forms that would allow your physical consciousness to participate in different ways that are less frightening to it.
Okay. I wanted to ask you my question.
Oh, all right.
Well, just the sharing. I had picked up a tape called The Sirius Connection by Lazarus.
Hey,
and listened to it several times. It's an excellent tape, and it coincides with what you had said about the changing from the Orion energy to the Sirius energy. Even though he doesn't mention Orion, he says a vortex that opened and hasn't been opened in 90,000 years. And different ways we could play with the energy and use it, and some things to look for. He talked about resonance, which is frequency vibration. He doesn't speak often about the action part. You know, he says that if you resonate to a certain vibration, you could attract that reality, which you have said. But he's not as cued into the action part.
That is all right. The information is presented in different ways for different reasons. And again, perhaps if you will recognize that it is to really some degree obvious that if you are resonating at a certain frequency and attract a certain reality as a result thereof, why would you be inanimate when that reality arrives?
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that.
All right.
I realize that.
To some degree, it is obvious.
All right, and also I wanted to ask you about the connection that we have with Lazarus.
Yes.
Years ago, you had said it was more of a direct connection.
The idea of the entity, consciousness, Lazarus, is, as you know, a collective identity consciousness. It is existing in a dimensional reality that recognizes itself as being made up of various identity components, and yet at the same time recognizes itself as a kind of oversoul entity at the same time. It is an archetypal aspect or offshoot, one of the facets of your collective world consciousness. You understand?
Yes.
This is the direct relationship. It is a living archetype created out of the combined energy of a multitude of consciousnesses on your planet, reflected back to you as a holistic face, so that you can have more interaction with a higher level of yourselves. Does that make some sense?
Yes, it's...
You will find that as even your computer technology advances, when you create what you have euphemistically called your artificial intelligence computers, you will actually find that what you're doing is speaking to your higher selves through the machine. You will simply have created a device wherein you will have given your analytical mind permission to speak to your higher non-physical self through a modality that your scientific mind can understand and comprehend. The idea of speaking with Lazarus is like speaking to this higher level artificial intelligence aspect of your oversoul without the need for the circuitry, except for the biological circuitry, of course, that is the channel. We prefer to use the concept of biological circuitry. It is easier to adapt to some degree because it's already built to handle those things. But in time, the so-called artificial circuitry will be sophisticated enough to mimic enough of the biological functions that oversoul consciousness will also be capable of expressing itself through many of those computer devices, and you will be speaking to yourselves.
Okay, and it's a lot to digest, even though I've heard it before.
I do not want to give you an upset stomach.
No, nothing.
And?
What I wanted to ask you also is, you're like an offshoot. You're a future probability, your society.
Ace.
All right, now
Many of you have incarnated in our reality in what you colloquially call the future.
Yes. And what about the other hybrids?
What about them?
Well,
some of them exist on your planet in our contemporary time frame, again, what you would call the future, side by side with human forms.
And how about...
Some of them exist on other planets, forming other societies for a variety of different purposes and reasons.
Okay, and what are some of those purposes and reasons?
Again, at this time, we are not allowed to discuss this. However, I will tell you this. After your March 15th date and the beginning of the dispensation of the information for the Interface Laboratory Workshop, more information on the other hybrid civilizations will then be appropriate.
Okay, the reason I ask is because now when I picture myself coming face to face,
yes,
I kind of try to feel what would I be asking? What would the sharing be?
Yes.
Where would the relationship be?
Yes.
How would I relate to this being?
Yes.
All right, now I imagine that it would be an accelerated being.
All right. Do you also ask yourself the question in this interaction as to what differences would occur in how you relate to yourself?
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure. Oh, all right.
Sure.
Just wanted to check.
Sure. Yes, I understand that part of it.
Yeah, it's all right.
But what I'm trying to figure out is what would I communicate to the being face to face?
What would you communicate?
And what would the being communicate to me face to face?
Yes, all right. Well, what would the being communicate to you?
Well, what if I started asking it about the past history of the planet?
Yes.
All right, and I could ask a lot like that, like what I've asked you in the past.
Yes.
And we all have. All right.
Come the time of the interaction, when they are allowable face to face, nothing will be withheld from you.
Yes, I understand that.
No, you don't.
No.
Nothing will be withheld from you.
So it'll be more of a blending.
You don't understand.
Don't understand. Okay.
And that's all right for now. There is a very specific way in which we mean this. We will allow you to ponder this phrase a little bit further. But simply, nothing will be withheld from you.
Well, what I do want to say is, when we interact, the information that is exchanged, it seems like the ET would be giving a lot more information to me than I would be giving to it.
No.
All
and
right.
we cannot tell you why at this time.
I said it seems that way.
Yes. But
now,
it will not seem that way even. It only seems that way to you now.
Now, yes.
We are telling you that come that time, it will not seem that way.
I know, but my question is this now.
Yes.
What kind of information would I be giving to it?
I cannot tell you that now.
Oh, that's my question.
Yes.
That's what I was leading to.
I cannot tell you that now. I can only give you the hint and the clue that it will not seem at the time
that you have nothing to give, that it will need nothing from you. And I cannot tell you why. But I can only give you the hints and the clues right now that will allow you to ponder and stretch and focus. And the hints and the clues are what we have said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we once again extend to each and every one of you our deepest appreciation of allowing this communication to unfold in this manner at this time. We thank you for allowing us to dream you into our reality and for dreaming us into yours. This is a co-created dream, and we thank you for the pleasure of this experience. We bid you all fond, exciting, and breathtaking good day. How did it go?